The words hung in the air like poison gas. Daughters are just expenses, sons are investments. My father's voice carried that familiar tone, casual cruelty wrapped in fatherly wisdom. I gripped my wineglass tighter, watching the red liquid tremble. My name is Yesenia, and this was supposed to be a celebration dinner. My brother Alex had just been promoted to Senior VP at Stratford & Kane Logistics, the company where our father Leo had worked for 40 years. Never mind that Alex had crashed 3 departments and burned through millions in failed initiatives. He was the son, the investment, the future. "Come on, Dad," Alex laughed, cutting into his steak. "You can't say stuff like that anymore. It's 2024. "Why not? It's the truth," Dad gestured with his fork. "Look at you. Everything I put into your education, your career guidance, it's all paying off. The Wallace name will mean something in this industry because of you." I took another sip of wine, letting it burn. 20 years of straight A's, an MBA from Wharton, and countless business proposals I'd tried to show him, all dismissed with that same patronising smile. "Just focus on finding a good husband, sweetheart. Yesenia's doing fine with her. What is it you do again, sis? Marketing consulting?" Alex asked, mouth full of potato. "Something like that," I replied. "Let them think I was some small-time freelancer. Let them underestimate me. They didn't need to know about the empire I'd built from scratch, the ventures I'd launched and flipped for millions. My wealth was my secret weapon. See what I mean?" Dad continued. "No ambition, no drive for real success. That's why I never wasted time trying to groom her for business." Mum picked at her salad, silent as always. 20 years of watching her swallow her voice had taught me everything I needed to know about survival. "Actually," I said, keeping my voice level, "I just closed a major deal today." "Oh?" Dad barely glanced up. "Another website for someone's craft business? Something bigger." My phone buzzed. Perfect timing. "Excuse me, I need to take this." I stepped onto the restaurant's terrace, the night air cool against my flushed skin. The caller ID read Peyton May. "Yesenia." Peyton's voice was electric with excitement. "The pieces are in place. Stratford & Kane's board is vulnerable. Their stock's been sliding since that failed merger. With your capital, we could initiate a quiet takeover within months." I looked back through the window. Dad was gesturing animatedly, probably sharing another story about Alex's brilliant future. My brother was preening, his fiancée Callie hanging on every word. Mum just nodded along, like always. "The old guard won't know what hit them," Peyton continued. "We can keep your involvement hidden through shell corporations until the final move. Are you interested?" My father's words echoed. Just an expense, no ambition, no drive for real success. "Tell them I'm interested," I said, my voice steel. "And Peyton, make sure everything's airtight. I want this to be surgical." When I returned to the table, Dad was ordering another bottle of wine. "To Alex," he declared, "the son who'll make the Wallace name legendary in logistics." I raised my glass with the rest of them, smiling for the first time that evening. "To legendary names," I echoed. The drive back to my penthouse was a blur of streetlights and strategy. I'd spent 15 years building my wealth in secret, watching from the shadows as my father poured everything into grooming Alex for a throne he'd never deserve. Now the pieces were finally in place. My phone buzzed again. Catherine, my attorney, probably already drafting preliminary paperwork for the takeover. She knew my whole story, had helped me structure my businesses to stay under the family radar. I let it go to voicemail. Tonight I needed to think. The penthouse was dark when I entered, floor-to-ceiling windows framing the city lights below. I kicked off my heels and poured myself a scotch. The expensive kind Dad would say was wasted on a daughter. "Just an expense," I whispered to my reflection in the window. The woman staring back wasn't the quiet girl who'd learned to swallow her dreams. She was a shark who'd learned to swim in silence, gathering strength in the deep. I pulled out my laptop and opened the file marked S&K Analysis. Pages of financial reports, board member profiles and stock projections filled the screen. At the top was my father's company photo, silver-haired, confident, utterly secure in his legacy. "Time to show you what your expense can do, Dad." The scotch burned going down, but not as much as 15 years of silence. Tomorrow, the real work would begin. Tonight, I'd savour the calm before the storm I was about to unleash. "You're really going to do this?" Catherine's heels clicked against my office floor as she dropped a stack of documents on my desk. "Taking down your father's company?" "Not taking down," I corrected, scanning the incorporation papers for my newest shell company. "Taking over, there's a difference." "Same result, you're going to destroy him." Catherine perched on the edge of my desk, her usual professional demeanour slipping. After 10 years as my attorney, she was the closest thing I had to a best friend. "Taking the crown might cost you your sanity, Yesenia. My sanity's been just fine through 15 years of being invisible." I signed the last document with a flourish. Besides, the numbers don't lie. Stratford and Kane is vulnerable. Their old-school management style is bleeding them dry. My phone lit up with a text from Peyton. "Meeting set with Garrett Jensen. Tomorrow, 9 a.m. "Garrett Jensen?" Catherine raised an eyebrow. "The former CEO they pushed out?" "The very same." I smiled, "and I bet he has some interesting insights about my father's leadership style." The next morning, I walked into the private dining room of the Four Seasons. Garrett Jensen stood to greet me, silver-haired, impeccably dressed, with eyes that missed nothing. "Ms. Wallace," he extended his hand, "I've heard impressive things about your investment portfolio." "Most people haven't heard anything about it," I replied, taking my seat. "That's by design." "Smart." He nodded approvingly. "Your father never mentioned having such a shrewd businesswoman for a daughter." "My father never mentioned having a daughter at all, I imagine." Garrett's expression shifted. Leo was traditional in his views. It's partly why we clashed. He and his old boys club thought innovation meant finding new ways to do the same old things. "Is that why they forced you out?" "They called it early retirement." His smile was razor-sharp. "I called it short-sightedness. The company needs new blood, new vision. When Peyton told me about your interest..." He paused, studying me. "This isn't just business for you, is it?" "Everything is business," I replied coolly. "Of course." He pulled out his phone, sliding it across the table. "Speaking of business, have you seen the latest board announcement?" I looked at the screen and felt my stomach clench. The headline read, "Stratford and Kane names Alex Wallace as incoming COO." "My brother," I said flatly. "They're really going to hand him the keys to the kingdom." "Your father's influence." Garrett leaned forward. "But here's what they don't know. Alex has been cooking the books in his division for months, creative accounting to hide his mistakes." Now that was interesting. "You still have sources inside?" "I built that company for 20 years. Loyalty doesn't disappear overnight." He pulled out a thumb drive. "Everything you need to know about the board members, their voting patterns, their vulnerabilities. Use it wisely." Back at my office, Catherine was waiting with more papers. "We've secured another 2% through the offshore account. That puts us at 12% total ownership." "Not enough." I paced the floor. "We need at least 30% before making any moves." "Yesenia." Catherine's voice was gentle. "The revenge you're planning, it won't heal what he did to you." I stopped at the window, watching the city buzz below. "This isn't about healing. It's about justice." "Justice?" She laughed harshly. "You're planning to destroy your father's legacy, humiliate your brother, and tear apart your family's company. That sounds more like revenge to me." "Then call it revenge!" I spun around. "Call it whatever you want, but I earned this. Every dollar, every connection, every piece of leverage, I built it all while they treated me like some worthless..." "Expense?" Catherine finished softly. My phone rang. Peyton again. "Turn on CNBC," she said without preamble. "Your brother's giving an interview about his new role." I grabbed the remote, and there was Alex, smooth and polished in his designer suit, spouting buzzwords about innovation and family legacy. Stratford and Kane has always been about family, he was saying. My father taught me that business is about relationships, about trust. I muted the TV, my hand shaking slightly. We can still walk away, Catherine said quietly. You've built something amazing on your own. You don't need this fight. I thought about last night's dinner, about 20 years of dinners just like it, about trophies hidden away and dreams dismissed, about a mother's silence and a father's casual cruelty. Actually, I said, picking up Garrett's thumb drive, I do need this fight, and I'm going to win it. I plugged in the drive, and pages of internal documents filled my screen. Board member profiles, voting records, financial statements, everything we needed to execute a perfect takeover. Call Peyton, I told Catherine. Tell her to start moving on the next phase. It's time to show them what the expense can do. The annual logistics industry gala was exactly as pretentious as I remembered. Crystal chandeliers, champagne fountains, and enough ego to sink a cruise ship. I adjusted my blonde wig and designer glasses, my Rachel Green disguise as Catherine called it. Nobody here would recognise Yesenia Wallace tonight. Rachel, darling! Callie air-kissed my cheeks, totally buying the fake identity I'd cultivated at these events. My brother's fiancée loved nothing more than networking with influential industry wives. Callie, how's wedding planning going? I asked, noting her slightly slurred speech. 3 glasses of champagne, minimum. Ugh, postponed again! She rolled her eyes. Alex is just so busy with this COO transition. The auditors are breathing down his neck, and he's practically living at the office. I sipped my sparkling water. Auditors? That sounds stressful. Tell me about it. Callie leaned in conspiratorially. Between us, he's totally drowning. Yesterday he called me crying about some missing reports. Actually crying. Can you imagine? How embarrassing, I murmured, mentally recording every word. I mean, I know his father pulled strings to get him this position, but... She glanced around and lowered her voice. The board's starting to ask questions. Something about inconsistent numbers in the Asia division. My phone buzzed. Catherine. Excuse me, I told Callie. Must take this. In the quiet hallway, Catherine's voice was urgent. The Thompson property just sold. You need to move now if you want those shares. Price? 12 million. Clean offer, no contingencies. I thought about my brother's tears, about those missing reports. Do it. And Catherine, start the paperwork on the Miller acquisition too. That's another 8 million. Are you sure? Time to go all in. I ended the call and checked my reflection, adjusting the wig. Through the ballroom doors I could see my father holding court at his usual table, probably bragging about Alex's promotion. A familiar voice behind me. Nice disguise. I turned to find Garrett, looking amused. How did you know? I make it my business to know things. He handed me a glass of champagne. Like the fact that you just bought the Thompson property. Bold move. I learned from watching the best. I clinked my glass against his. Speaking of bold moves, heard anything interesting lately? Your brother's Asia division is hemorrhaging money. The board's called an emergency meeting for next week. He smiled thinly. Funny timing considering those anonymous tips about accounting irregularities. I kept my face neutral. Those anonymous tips had cost me a small fortune to arrange. The truth always comes out eventually. Indeed. Garrett's eyes drifted to my father's table. You know, Leo once told me daughters were bad investments. I wonder what he'll think when he realises his greatest threat was the daughter he ignored. My phone buzzed again. A text from Catherine. Miller deal closed. We're at 28% ownership. 2 more weeks, tops. A memory hit me. 16-year-old me, standing in my father's study with my college acceptance letter. Dad, I got into Wharton. Early decision. He barely looked up. That's nice, sweetheart, but Alex needs his tuition covered for that gaming startup course. We'll have to use your college fund. You can go to state school. It's fine for what you'll need. Back in the present, Callie was waving me over to her table. I squared my shoulders and rejoined the party, playing my role perfectly. Rachel Green, harmless social butterfly, listening and gathering intel as the champagne flowed. "I just don't know what we'll do if this audit goes badly," Callie was saying, definitely on glass number 5 now. "Alex's whole future depends on this promotion." "Everything will work out," I assured her, watching my father laugh at some joke across the room. The truth always comes out eventually. Later that night, I sat in my office, wig discarded, staring at the latest financial reports. The pieces were falling into place faster than I'd hoped. Alex's desperation, the board's suspicion, my steadily growing ownership stake. It was all coming together. My phone lit up, Catherine again. "Just got word from our source on the board. The emergency meeting's been moved up. They're calling for a full audit of all divisions." "Perfect." I pulled up the document I'd been saving for exactly this moment. Proof of every creative accounting trick Alex had used to hide his failures. "Send in the anonymous tip about the offshore accounts tomorrow morning." "Yesenia," Catherine hesitated. "Are you sure you want to do this to your own brother?" I thought about that college fund, about every time he'd smirked while Dad dismissed my achievements. He's not my brother anymore. He's just another bad investment that needs to be corrected. "The board meeting's in 2 weeks," Catherine said quietly. "Once we submit this evidence, there's no going back." I looked at my reflection in the darkened window, seeing not the ignored daughter, but the shark I'd become. Good. It's time everyone learned what happens when you underestimate an expense. Stratford and Kane leadership under scrutiny. Board calls emergency meeting. The Wall Street Journal headline stared back at me from my tablet. 3 other major business publications had picked up the story, each adding their own speculation about the company's future. "The stock's down 12% since the story broke," Garrett reported over lunch. "Your brother's been calling emergency meetings all week, but he can't stop the bleeding." "Any word from my father?" "Leo's doing what he does best, denying everything and blaming others." Garrett's phone buzzed. "Speaking of which, look who just released a statement." I read the company press release. "These baseless rumours are an attempt to destabilise a strong and stable company. The Wallace family stands behind our leadership and vision." The Wallace family, I repeated, tasting the irony. How convenient that I'm only family when they need a united front. My phone lit up, Catherine. "Turn on CNBC now," she said when I answered. "Your brother's doing damage control." I switched on the office TV. Alex looked terrible, dark circles under his eyes, tie slightly askew. "These allegations are completely unfounded," he was saying, voice strained. "Our Asia division is performing exactly as projected." "Is that why internal auditors are reviewing all international transactions?" the reporter pressed. Alex's face twitched. "No comment on ongoing internal processes." I muted the TV. "He's drowning." "And you're not done yet," Catherine said. "The latest stock purchase cleared. We're at 35% ownership." "Enough for a board position." I smiled. Time to visit memory lane. An hour later, I pulled up to my childhood home. The house looked smaller than I remembered, its pristine lawn a testament to my father's obsession with appearances. The spare key was still hidden under the garden gnome. Inside, everything was exactly as I remembered, including the trophy cabinet in the living room. Alex's participation trophies and business awards dominated the shelves. My Wharton diploma and business competition medals were nowhere to be seen. "I wondered when you'd come." I spun around. My mother stood in the doorway, looking older than I remembered. "Mom!" My voice came out harder than intended. "Didn't expect anyone home at this hour." "I saw the news." She moved closer, studying my face. "The company troubles, the stock price falling. That's you, isn't it?" "What makes you say that?" "Because I know you, Yesenia. I've watched you build yourself in silence all these years." She touched the trophy cabinet gently. "Your father never saw it coming, but I did." "And you never said anything?" "What could I say?" Her voice cracked slightly. "I stayed silent for survival, just like you did. But I saw everything, every dismissal, every time he crushed your dreams for Alex's whims." "And you did nothing." I did what I could. She disappeared into the study, returning with a box. I kept these. Inside were all my awards, certificates, newspaper clippings about my early business successes, published under different names, of course. You knew? Mothers always know. She smiled sadly. I tracked every shell company, every quiet acquisition. You learned to hide in plain sight, just like I did. My phone buzzed. Garrett. Board meeting moved up to tomorrow. They found the offshore accounts. Mum read my expression. It's happening, isn't it? The takeover you've planned. How did you... Like I said, I've been watching. She touched my arm. Your father isn't as blind as you think, and neither is Alex. Let them see, I said coldly. It's too late to stop it now. I'm not trying to stop you. She pulled out one final document from the box, my original business plan for a logistics company, written when I was 17. The one Dad had laughed at and called cute. I want you to know, she said quietly, that someone was always watching, always believing, even if I couldn't say it. My phone buzzed again, Catherine this time. Everything's set for tomorrow. The board votes at 9 a.m. I have to go. I turned to leave, then paused. Mum, why tell me all this now? Because tomorrow you'll destroy everything your father built. She met my eyes steadily. And I want you to know that his biggest mistake wasn't underestimating you. It was never seeing you at all. Back in my car, I read Catherine's text again. Last chance to back out. I thought about the trophy cabinet, about my mother's secret box of achievements, about every dinner where I was invisible. My reply was simple. See you at 9 a.m. The city lights blurred as I drove back to my office. Tomorrow would change everything. The board would vote, the truth would emerge, and Leo Wallace would finally learn what his expense had become. I touched the business plan Mum had given me, now sitting on my passenger seat. Tomorrow, the invisible daughter would step into the light, and nothing would ever be the same. The Stratford and Kane boardroom fell silent as I walked in. 12 pairs of eyes locked onto me, including my father's and brother's. Alex's face went pale. Dad's expression flickered between confusion and dawning horror. What is she doing here? Dad demanded, half rising from his seat. Garrett stepped forward, smooth as ever. Allow me to introduce our newest major shareholder, Yesenia Wallace. She holds 35% of company shares through various investment vehicles. That's impossible, Alex sputtered. She's just a freelance consultant. Actually, I placed my portfolio on the mahogany table. I'm the CEO of Summit Ventures. We've acquired controlling interests in 17 companies over the past decade. Perhaps you've heard of us? Dad's face reddened. This is ridiculous. Some kind of joke. The only joke, I said, taking my seat, is how long you've mismanaged this company while promoting incompetent leadership based on gender rather than merit. How dare you, Alex started, but I cut him off. Shall we discuss the Asia Division's books, Alex? The offshore accounts? The creative accounting to hide your failures? The colour drained from his face. This is emotional hysteria, Dad announced to the board. The bitter revenge of a daughter who... No, I interrupted, my voice arctic. This is hostile acquisition by a better investor. Now, let's discuss the leadership restructuring proposal. Catherine distributed documents to each board member. As you can see, we've documented systematic mismanagement under current leadership, including multiple instances of financial irregularities. You can't do this, Dad's voice cracked. This company is my legacy. Was your legacy, I corrected. Page 3 details the proposed new management structure, with Garrett Jensen returning as CEO. You're working with him? Alex pointed at Garrett accusingly. He's been feeding you information. Smart girl, Garrett smiled. Unlike some, she actually earned her position. The next hour was a blur of presentations, votes, and signatures. Dad sat in stunned silence as his empire crumbled. Alex alternated between threats and pleading. The board members, seeing the evidence of mismanagement, voted overwhelmingly for change. "This concludes the leadership transition," Catherine announced finally. "Mr. Wallace Jr., you'll find severance terms in your packets." "You've been planning this for years," Dad said quietly as others filed out. "All those quiet dinners playing the dutiful daughter." "I learned from you, Dad. Isn't that what you wanted? A child who understood business." I gathered my papers. "Though I suppose you meant Alex." "I'll fight this," he threatened. "I'll expose whatever illegal methods you used." "Everything was perfectly legal," I cut in. "I just played the game better than you. Besides, do you really want people knowing you lost your company to the daughter you called just an expense?" His face contorted. For a moment I thought he might actually strike me. Instead, he grabbed his coat and stormed out, leaving Alex alone with me. "Sis," he tried, using his old cajoling tone, "we can work something out. I'm still your brother." "My brother?" I laughed coldly. "My brother who took my college fund, who watched Dad dismiss me for years and smirked. That brother?" "I know something," he hissed, dropping the nice act. "About your first acquisition, the Martinez deal. Not as clean as you pretend." I felt Catherine tense beside me, but I kept my voice steady. "Is that right? Give me a fair settlement, real money, not this severance garbage, or I'll make sure everyone knows how you really built your empire. Alex," I leaned forward, "do you really want to play this game with me after I just took down Dad's whole company without breaking a sweat?" He swallowed hard. "But let's talk after lunch," I continued pleasantly. "I'm sure Callie would love to join us. We could discuss those interesting texts she's been sending me about your creative accounting methods." "Callie?" His voice cracked. "She wouldn't—" "Everyone has a price, brother. Isn't that what Dad taught us?" I stood up. "Though sometimes the price is just revenge." He grabbed my arm as I passed. "This isn't over." "Actually, it is." I pulled free. "But if you want to test me, remember, I've spent 15 years learning how to destroy people while smiling. Want to see what I can do in 15 minutes? He let go, deflating like a punctured balloon. At the door, I turned back. "Oh, and Alex, clean out your office by 5. Expense or not, I own this company now." In the elevator, Catherine finally spoke. "He wasn't bluffing about the Martinez deal." "I know." I watched the numbers descend. "But he doesn't know I have contingency plans for every possible threat, including him." "The crown is yours," she said quietly. "Was it worth it?" I thought about Dad's face, about Alex's threats, about 15 years of silence and fury. "Ask me tomorrow," I replied as the elevator doors opened. "We're not done yet." "The Martinez deal?" Catherine spread the old files across my desk. "Alex could cause problems with this. The SEC doesn't look kindly on undisclosed conflicts of interest." "He's bluffing," I said, but uncertainty gnawed at my stomach. "He doesn't have proof." My phone buzzed. "Alex. Ready to talk, sis, or should I call the Securities and Exchange Commission first?" I hit ignore, but seconds later an email arrived. Attached were scanned documents from the Martinez acquisition, including emails I thought I'd deleted years ago. "Shit!" I pushed the laptop toward Catherine. "He kept receipts." "This is bad," she confirmed, scanning the documents. "If he proves you knew about Martinez's connection to your shell company before the deal." A knock at my office door interrupted us. Callie stood there, mascara smeared, clutching a USB drive. "Your brother," she spat the words, "is a lying, cheating bastard." "Come in," I said, raising an eyebrow. "I'm guessing this isn't about wedding planning." "Found these on his laptop." She tossed the drive onto my desk. Every dirty deal, every cooked book, every penny he stole, plus evidence of his extracurricular activities with his assistant. Catherine plugged in the drive, her eyes widening as she scrolled. "This is comprehensive. He promised we'd be rich," Callie's voice cracked. "Said once he was COO we'd have everything. Instead, he was stealing company money to finance his gambling debts and God knows what else." I studied her carefully. "Why bring this to me?" "Because you're winning." She met my eyes, and I always bet on the winner. My phone buzzed again. "Alex." This time I answered. Ready to deal? He asked smugly. Actually, yes. My office, 1 hour. Bring your evidence about Martinez. After he hung up, Catherine stared at me. What are you planning? A trade. I held up Callie's drive. His future for mine. Alex swaggered in exactly an hour later, waving a folder. Got your attention, didn't I? Sit down, I said quietly. Let's talk about mutually assured destruction. Nothing mutual about it, he smirked. These documents prove you knew about Martinez's connection to your company. That's federal fraud, sis. Interesting. I opened my laptop. Almost as interesting as these bank transfers showing you embezzled $12 million, or these texts to your assistant planning weekend getaways while Callie planned your wedding. His face went from smug to shocked in seconds. How did you? Turns out your fiancé doesn't appreciate being played for a fool. I turned the screen toward him. She gave me everything, Alex, every dirty little secret. You're bluffing. Want to bet your freedom on that? Securities fraud, embezzlement, wire fraud. I clicked through documents. The FBI would have a field day. You wouldn't, he whispered. I'm your brother. And I'm just an expense, remember? I closed the laptop. Here's the deal. You resign quietly, surrender your Martinez evidence, and walk away with your severance. Or I bury you so deep the prison guards will need GPS to find you. Dad was right about you, he snarled. You're nothing but a vindictive bit. Choose carefully, I cut him off. Your next words determine whether you leave here in a cab or handcuffs. He stared at me for a long moment, then dropped the folder on my desk. You win. Happy now? Ecstatic? I pushed a resignation letter toward him. Sign. After he left, Catherine let out a breath. That was close. Too close. I looked at the Martinez folder. We need to clean up any other loose ends. My phone lit up with a news alert. Breaking. Leo Wallace resigns from Stratford and Kane Board, cites unfair practices. Unfair practices, I laughed bitterly. That's rich coming from him. You've won, Catherine said softly. The company's yours. Your father's humiliated. Alex is finished. What more do you want? I walked to the window, watching the city lights flicker on as dusk fell. The victory felt hollow somehow, empty. Garrett's ready to step in as CEO, Catherine continued. The board supports all your proposals. You've achieved everything you wanted. Had I? The rage that fueled me for 15 years felt different now, quieter, like a fire burning out. My phone buzzed one last time, a text from Mum. Your father burned the family photos tonight, all of them, even the ones of you as a baby. I pressed my forehead against the cool glass. Outside, life went on as normal, while inside, the weight of victory pressed down like lead. Catherine, I said quietly, draw up the CEO paperwork for Garrett and clear my schedule for tomorrow. Where are you going? I thought about those burning photos, about legacy and loss and the price of revenge. Home, I said. I need to see what's left of it. The shareholders' meeting erupted in applause as Garrett finished presenting our restructuring plan. Stock prices had stabilised, confidence was returning, and the press was calling it a masterclass in corporate transformation. I should have felt triumphant. Instead, I felt numb. Brilliant work, a board member gushed, shaking my hand. The Wallace legacy is in good hands. The Wallace legacy. I excused myself and headed to the bathroom, splashing cold water on my face. In the mirror, I looked successful, powerful, everything I'd dreamed of. So why did victory taste like ashes? My phone buzzed. Mum again. Found something you should see. Come by the house. The drive to my childhood home felt longer than usual. Mum was waiting on the porch, holding a weathered envelope. What's this? I asked, following her inside. Found it in your father's study while he was packing. She handed me the envelope. It's addressed to you, never sent. The letter was dated 15 years ago, right after I'd left for state college. Yesenia, I'm writing this after our fight about your college fund. You slammed the door so hard the pictures shook, just like your mother, all fire and fury. The truth is, I was afraid. Afraid because you remind me so much of myself at your age. Ambitious, brilliant, unstoppable. I built this company from nothing, fought my way up, and the hunger I see in your eyes, it terrifies me. I pushed you away because I saw how this life could consume you. Better, I thought, to discourage you than watch you become hard and cold like me. But maybe I was wrong. Maybe I just couldn't bear seeing you succeed where I failed, at balancing ambition with humanity. I'll probably never send this. We Wallaces aren't good at admitting mistakes. Dad. He never sent it, I said flatly, crumpling the paper. No. Mum touched my arm. He chose pride instead, just like you're choosing revenge. This changes nothing, doesn't it? She led me to the kitchen window. Outside, the trash cans still smouldered with burnt photos. Look what revenge has cost this family. Your father's living in a hotel. Alex is drinking himself into oblivion. And you? I won, I snapped. Did you? Because the daughter I raised wanted to build things, not destroy them. My phone buzzed. Catherine. Stock's up 15% since the meeting. Press wants interviews about the female business prodigy who saved Stratford and Kane. Saved it? I laughed bitterly. I broke it first. Maybe that's why you can fix it, Mum said quietly. You understand how it breaks. A car pulled up outside, Dad's Mercedes. He stepped out, looking older than I'd ever seen him. I should go, I said quickly. Running away again? Mum challenged, like he did with that letter. Before I could respond, the front door opened. Dad stopped short when he saw me, his face a mask of exhaustion and defeat. I'm just getting some files, he said stiffly. Leo, Mum's voice was firm. Sit down, both of you. To my surprise, he did. We sat at the kitchen table, the scene of so many silent dinners, so much unspoken pain. I found your letter, I said finally. He flinched. That was a lifetime ago. Was it true, what you wrote about being afraid? Does it matter now? He gestured vaguely. You've won, taken everything I built. Everything you built? My voice rose. What about what I built? 15 years of work of proving myself while you treated me like nothing. I never saw you as nothing, he shouted back. I saw you as everything I was afraid of becoming. The kitchen fell silent. Outside, a lawn-mower hummed. Inside, decades of pain hung in the air between us. You were right, he said finally, his voice rough. About the company, about Alex, about everything. I was so focused on legacy that I forgot what legacy really means. My phone buzzed again. Catherine. So what's next, boss? What was next? I looked at my father, broken but finally honest. At Mom, who'd saved that letter all these years. At the burnt photos outside, the physical proof of how revenge destroys everything it touches. The company needs new leadership, I said slowly. Real leadership. Not revenge, not pride, just good business. And who's going to provide that? Dad asked. I thought about the ambitious girl who dreamed of building something meaningful, about the woman who'd learned to break things instead, about legacy and redemption and the thin line between justice and vengeance. I don't know yet, I admitted, but I'm starting to remember who I was before revenge became my business plan. Mom reached across the table and took both our hands. For the first time in 15 years we sat together, not as victor and vanquished, but as a family facing the wreckage we'd all helped create. So what now? Dad asked quietly. I looked out at the smouldering trash can. Now, we rebuild, if we can. The board is ready for you, Catherine announced, straightening my jacket. Are you sure about this? I nodded, gripping the folder containing my proposal. Through the boardroom's glass walls, I could see Garrett talking with the directors. My father sat quietly in his old seat, not as an executive now, but as my invited guest. Let's do this, I said, pushing open the doors. The room fell silent as I took my place at the podium. Faces turned toward me, some curious, some wary, all waiting to hear what the woman who'd orchestrated both the company's fall and resurrection would say next. 3 months ago, I stood here fueled by revenge, I began. I wanted to destroy what my father built. Instead, I learned something about legacy, about the difference between breaking things and building them. I opened the folder, but I didn't need to read the words. I'd lived them. Stratford & Kane was founded on the idea that logistics means connecting people, not just moving boxes. Somewhere along the way, we forgot that. We became about power, about old boys' clubs, about whose name carried more weight. Dad shifted in his seat, but his eyes never left mine. Today, I'm announcing 3 changes. First, I'm stepping down as majority shareholder, distributing those shares into an employee ownership program. Second, we're launching a women's leadership initiative, funding business education for daughters of our employees. Murmurs rippled through the room. Catherine's eyebrows shot up. We hadn't discussed this part. Finally, I continued, I'm establishing the Wallace Innovation Fund with my father as chief advisor. Now Dad's head snapped up, genuine surprise on his face. Not because of nepotism, I added quickly, but because sometimes the people who helped break something are exactly who you need to fix it. They know where the cracks are. After the presentation, after the votes and handshakes and press statements, Dad caught up with me in the hallway. Chief advisor? He asked quietly. If you want it, I replied. The fund will focus on mentoring young entrepreneurs, especially those who might be overlooked because they don't fit someone's idea of success. Like a daughter who was smarter than her father wanted to admit? Something like that. He rubbed his face tiredly. I don't deserve this chance. Probably not, I agreed. But this isn't about deserving. It's about building something better than what we broke. And Alex? He's in rehab. When he's ready, really ready, there might be a place for him too, but he'll have to earn it. My phone buzzed. A text from Mum. Dinner tonight? Found more old photos in the attic? Speaking of family, I showed him the message. Want to join us? He hesitated, then nodded. I'd like that. Back in my office, Catherine was waiting with a stack of papers. The press is calling you everything from corporate saint to strategic genius, though my favourite headline is The Expense Who Became the Investment. I laughed. Frame that one. But seriously, she perched on my desk, are you okay with giving up control, everything you fought for? I'm not giving up anything, I corrected. I'm building something new, something that can't be broken by one person's pride or another's revenge. And the Martinez deal? The evidence Alex had? Already disclosed to the SEC with our new transparency initiative, sometimes owning your mistakes is better than hiding them. A knock at the door. Garrett. Ready for the transition meeting? Actually, I grabbed my coat, I'm having dinner with my parents. The company can survive without me for one evening. Look at you, Catherine smirked. Choosing family over business. Who are you, and what have you done with Yesenia? I'm still me, I said, just better at building than breaking now. Walking through the office, I passed the wall of company photos. My father's stern portrait had been joined by newer images, diverse faces, fresh perspectives, a future built on something stronger than just one family's legacy. At the elevator, I paused to send one last email to the daughter of an employee who'd sent me her business proposal. The subject line read, Your idea matters. Let's talk. The doors opened and I stepped in, catching my reflection in the polished steel. I saw neither the ignored daughter nor the avenging warrior. Just a woman who'd learned that real power isn't in destroying what hurt you, but in building something better from the ruins. Property of the expense, I whispered, smiling at the old phrase. But this time it meant something different, something stronger. Because sometimes the best revenge isn't vengeance at all. It's proving them wrong by becoming something better than they ever imagined you could be.